welcome back into Riding the Pine. This is our review of game, was this 22, Joe? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, game
Yes.
22 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. And the Chicago Blackhawks fell tonight to the Detroit Red Wings by a score of 5-3, dropping their overall record to 11-7-4. But before we get to the game and my rant on the fandom, um, if you could do us a really big favor and hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already, we greatly appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. And comment down below. This is going to be probably a very, I hope, I hope it's not controversial, but it'll probably be taken as a controversial episode. So please comment down below. And if you do, please keep it civil, let's say. But with that, I referenced him just a few minutes ago because I am thrown off by that game that was postponed. I'm here once again with Chai Sports fan Joe. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Kyle, and just to start here, um, Blackhawks fans, I know we're frustrated. Like this was a game that I think we all felt we should have won, but we're gonna have games like this. It's one game. It's very, very difficult to beat a team four straight times, let alone eight straight times. We beat Detroit four straight times. They made the adjustments. Our defense had a lot of bad mistakes tonight that where the puck was ended in the back was put in the back of our net. It's one game, throw it away. We come back tomorrow. That's the beautiful thing. We get another chance tomorrow, and I guarantee, I mean, I don't want to guarantee anything, but I can almost with certainty say that the result tomorrow is going to be drastically different than what it was tonight.
Yes, as I'm taking a drink of my watered down Mountain Dew here. Um, yes, I agree. And I want to, before, well, first, I'm going to say this. So, this show is going to be a little bit more laid back than normal. We might not talk as much about the game as we normally would because there's things that um, I want to talk about. And if Joe wants to chime in, he can as well about things that are going on in the fandom as well as, essentially social media that I think just, we've kind of briefly glossed over them previously, but I just think at this point they need to be talked about. And before we even get into that, I want to apologize for I was tweeting from the account earlier to Tab Bamford, I believe is his name. I know he's one of the more prominent guys with Chicago Blackhawks on Twitter. And I'm not apologizing to him because what he did was fucked up. And by the way, as I just dropped my first F bomb, if you have kids listening, probably not the episode for them to listen to. I'm going to try to keep it clean, but I'm a former hockey player and we curse like sailors. So just be advised. There's probably going to be a lot of swearing by me, even as I try to tone it down. But I do want to apologize for the swearing on Twitter because I don't want that on our feed. I just got ticked, irritated. I think we are all a little bit on edge, as Joe said, about the result tonight. And then this is just stuff that's been bothering me for a while, so that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it. So the first thing I want to talk about, and I think Joe and I have talked about it at least the last 5 reviews that we've done together, and that's Nikita Zadorov. Um, Before the game even started tonight, I saw a article written by Ben Pope, and I don't know necessarily what the intent was, but I think was trying to write actually a good piece about how the Hawks have 10 defensemen and how that's a good thing. Uh, and I think he was trying to explain why Bodan was sent to Rockford and Kalanick was sent to Rockford as well. which, by the way, that's something else we can talk about in a little bit as well, that I want to touch on. But staying on Zadorov, he commented in his piece that Zadorov has been playing inconsistently and could see himself scratched as well as Dahan. However, to me, which was a little irritable, Dahan hasn't been called out by pretty much anybody all season in the beat, and he has been downright awful this year, way worse than Zadorov, not even close. And that's saying something because Zadorov, as I think everybody would agree, is not a top four defenseman, and he's making $1 million less than Dahan is. So, Dahan needs to be better. And I was just irritated to begin with that, you know, because I've noticed and we've talked about Zadorov seems to be getting picked on and bullied by the fan base. Even, as I tweeted out with the first goal tonight, he gets crapped on if he's on the ice anytime a goal is scored, whether he's involved in it or not. And by involved with it, I'm talking about if the Hawks give up a goal and he's, the guy, the reason that it is scored. And we can start, I guess, with that first goal tonight. I don't, the goal scorer was Bobby Ryan, who I actually wanted, going into this game, I wanted to ask Joe if he thought, maybe Bowman would try to trade for Bobby Ryan, but we'll leave that for another time. But Bobby Ryan scored tonight, his sixth of the season. And Zadorov, actually, it wasn't Bobby Ryan, it was Fabry, was bringing the puck up. And Zadorov went to go take the body and land a hip check. That's what you want him to do. That's what you brought him here to do, to use his size and take the body. And I saw even on the post-game show, they said that he missed Fabry. He didn't miss Fabry. He definitely checked him. He hit him. He didn't hit him direct.
I think he just missed time to check a little bit.
Yeah, Fabry was able to still get through. And then got the pass off to Bobby Ryan, and then it was 1-0 Detroit.
Where we don't, like you said, I think maybe what you're getting to is we don't say that Murphy lost the guy in front there, Ryan. So,
yeah. Well, I think, and I could be wrong. It was either Myers or Mayers or Conroy during the post game. Like, I think Pat Boyle maybe had been setting them up, and maybe, they didn't want to make Boyle look bad, or whoever had set up, whatever the highlights. But one of them tried to be like, well, Murphy kind of should have took the other guy there. And he should have. And even so, Murphy, I don't think has really played a bad game all year. Tonight was not a good night for him. And you know what? With Murphy, like, you got to give him one every now and then. But you still, like, if you're going to, I think that's like a thing with me. If you're going to critique players, one, it has to be fair. And two, it has to be consistent. You can't critique one guy and then not critique your favorite player or somebody else that you deem as, a better overall player. Is Connor Murphy a better defenseman than Nikita Zadorov? Yes. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. But that play is not on Zadorov. I mean, yes, maybe if he kept and took out Fabry, maybe the goal doesn't happen. But Murphy is still the guy in front of the net who lost Ryan. So that's the
when we look at it, DeBrincat scores, a really great goal to tie the game up. But, again, we're a defensive lapse, not even 30 seconds later, and we're chasing the game again. So, it's little things like that just that can't happen. And they did tonight. And like you said, Kyle, we're going to have games like this. This is, all part of a hockey season. No team during even a regular season can go 82-0-0. We're gonna have games where just things don't go right and where we're chasing and and which I give the Hawks credit because we did kind of build off the momentum there a little bit too when we got the game to 4-2, but then the goal by Nielsen really just I think that was kind of the nail in the Hawks coffin right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, the defense. If I didn't, originally the headline for this episode was going to be the defense collapsed, and look, this is the worst the defense has played probably since Game 4 of the season, down in Florida, and that's going to happen. And look, it's nobody expected this team to be where they are right now, and the fact that the defense has played so well, like, and it has, you can't deny that the defense has not played well, especially considering that for the most part there's been three rookies. Half of the defense has been rookies all year, whether it's Carlson, whether it's Boquist, whether it's Mitchell, or whether it's Bodan. Now, obviously, now that they're healthy, it's just Mitchell and Boquist, which is, what I think most of us thought the season was going to be, and it was when it started. However, when you're down the players that they are in the top six, and you already lacked goal scoring, which we'll get to in a second, you're when your defense collapses, you're probably losing when you don't have the goal scoring. And the Hawks just don't have that this year. I commented a couple games ago that they only have one line that can score right now, and that's Kane, DeBrincat, and Suter. And DeBrincat had a goal tonight. Kane had a couple great opportunities with Suter, and that's the line. But the other lines aren't consistent. And part of that is because you don't have the talent that to be there. And we've talked about this. Would having Jonathan Taves and Kirby Doc make this team better? Yes, infinitely better. However, that's still not enough. Look, they lost 5-3 tonight, really 5-2, because Kubalik scored with 12 seconds left. And he really is liking Detroit this year because what does he get? I think 2 or 3 goals out of his 7 have come against Detroit. So that's
yeah.
that's concerning. But the Blackhawks had 49, or let's just round up and say 50. They had 50 scoring chances tonight. Now, Jonathan Bernier is not Dominic Hasek, and he's not, I don't think, did not play a spectacular game tonight. Did he have a couple good saves? Yes. But again, listen to that number, 50. The Hawks usually average about 20 a game, and they had 50 tonight, and they could only muster 3 goals. Now, everyone wants to say, if you add playmakers, Kirby Doc and Jonathan Taves back into the lineup, that's going to change and they're miraculously going to start scoring. Really? They had 50 chances tonight. How many more chances do you need?
Right, but I think the key is, Kyle, on those chances, I would love to know how many were high danger. Danger.
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of it too. But, and people like to, okay, so let's just talk about Tab, and which is the conversation the series of tweets I apologize for the language earlier. So I tweeted out, I'll even try to pull up my tweet. I tweeted out basically noticing, because I was sitting here thinking to myself, man, it really sucks because, the defense has played particularly well, pretty much since the first 4 games, right? And he tweets, or I tweet out that at some point the Blackhawks fans, the fandom, and management, including Bowman, are going to have to accept that the defense is not this team's problem. And it isn't. Yes, they lost tonight because the defense was bad and they just couldn't score. But the defense, look what we're talking about. We're talking about Bodan and Mitchell and Kalanick and Boquist and Regula and Vlasic's not even here. These are all defensemen. All of our top prospects are defensemen, and most of them are already here. The defense is not this team's problem. It's not going to be for a long time. It's top 6 scoring. Look, the 3 players, and this is like to my point, the 3 players that were supposed to put the puck in the net for Chicago are on the roster. Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, and Dominic Kubalik. Those are the 3 guys. Those are your goal scorers. And are Kane and DeBrincat playing well? Yes. Dominic Kubalik racked up a bunch of points on the power play when the power play was clicking all season or early this season. Obviously, it's not now because we're not even getting power plays, but that's going to happen too. You can't rely on the power play to win games. You got to be able to score 5-on-5, and the Hawks are not doing that. And even if say only 25 of the 50 chances tonight were high danger, you still got to put the puck in the net. You've got you've got Kane, the greatest American to ever play, will be. You've got DeBrincat, a 40-goal scorer, probably would be on pace for 30 plus, maybe even 40 this year in a normal season. Kubalik put up 30 last year. I obviously don't like Kubalik. I think that's a well-known fact, but he's here to score. And yes, his stats are deceiving because most of his points have come on the power play. And not only that, but like I just said, like 3 out of his 7 goals have come against Detroit, who is, God love them, but they're the worst team in the league this year. And I don't think anybody would argue that.
Maybe Ottawa.
Yeah. Well, Ottawa's kind of turning it on lately, but yeah, you could argue that. But and look, Kane is having an MVP-like season. And I mentioned this to Joe before we came on the air, and because I thought about this as I was watching the game. Where in the blue hell would this team be if Patrick Kane was injured or gone? We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah,
like
we'd probably be where Detroit is in the stand.
And then everybody, and like that's another point. Everybody in the fandom would still be bitching about the defense because like that's been the narrative, and like it shouldn't be. The defense is not this team's problem. We've talked about this before on the show, and me and Joe talked about it earlier, and I even tweeted it out. There's $16 million between Brent Seabrook, Andrew Shaw, and Zach Smith, or not 16, about 15, roughly, out of the lineup. That's not even including Taves, because obviously one would assume and hope that he's a part of this team's future. So just looking at the 3 guys.
Yeah, but it's like, do you think? I mean, we're what? We're 22 games in. I mean, we're nearly we're 6 games away from the halfway point. I just don't. I don't see Taves coming back. I hope I'm wrong, but
I don't know. I don't believe them when they say that they don't know what's wrong with him, and I don't think anybody believes them. But that would lead me to believe that this is something serious.
Right.
I just don't know what it is. So that's a stay tuned type of thing. But even so, like, again, this is my point. Like Tab, I think, tried to clap. First of all, he just twisted what I said. And that's why, seriously, the guy can go screw himself. But he even went further and he's like, well, and he didn't tag me either, which, by the way, I'm just going to look. If you're going to get on social media and you're going to start trying to like shit talk people and engage in that kind of stuff, and I do it a lot on my personal Twitter account, but I don't, and that's why I apologized earlier. I don't want to do it on our, podcast channel. But if you're going to do that, tag the person. Don't sit and like, there's a word for this. It's escaping me, but like passive aggressively tweet on your feed without tagging somebody when everybody knows who you're talking about. That's just chicken shit BS. Don't do that. And he's better than that, and he knows he's better than that. But he mentioned that Taves' 60 points would make this team better, that I was saying it wouldn't make this team better. He clearly doesn't listen to the show. And I'm not even knocking him for that. Look, we've only been doing this for 22 games now. We're a young podcast. Most people don't listen to us. Hopefully they will eventually. But if they had listened to us and even followed my timeline or feed and the show's feed, they would know that we've talked about how important Taves and Doc are. But again, to the point that I was making earlier, they had 50 chances tonight. If you say you have Doc and Taves and you make 70, it's not gonna. So maybe they get an extra goal out of that. That they still don't win the game because nobody's finishing. You got to have guys that can finish chances. So that's what I'm talking about. Like fans have to look at the overall picture and look and watch the whole play too when you're with the Zadorov hate, right? We talked about it. People only wanted to focus on Zadorov not finishing his whole check, but they completely missed Murphy losing his guy. And then the real killer, which we talked about, Keith and Mitchell getting lost behind the net. And then, we haven't talked about this yet, but the fifth goal that I think a lot of people wanted to blame on Zadorov was not on him either. That was on Subban. Zadorov cut to the middle, took the guy, blocked him out, and the guy shot through Zadorov's legs, a weak angled shot, and it went through Subban's armpit and hip, a little
Yeah, I
gap.
was going to say, and I think even Edzo said that that's one where you need to stop from your goaltender.
Right. And even the hate Subban got tonight. And I have friends who are going on about how Lankinen should have started tonight. No. No, 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 no. And I'm the biggest Lankinen cheerleader that there is. I've been talking about Kevin Lankinen before Robin Leonard was signed. Okay? And I love the kid. I want him to keep playing and get as many starts as possible. But Malcolm Subban has played a good stretch of games and had a shutout last game, and we're on a back-to-back. You got to play him tonight. That's just how hockey works. That's not some new revelation that Colleton or somebody invented. All the way down to high school and midget level hockey. That's what you do. If a goalie has a good game and he gets a shutout, he's usually the next guy, unless he's injured or something. He plays the next game. Especially, it's even bigger when it's on a back-to-back. So, and did Subban play great tonight? No. Was he bad? Nah, not really. I mean, we talked about it the last review. There was it Fabry that got a shot on him and it hit Subban's glove and then it bounced back out and Fabry just couldn't get it. Huge scoring chance for them early in the game. And I mean, that's what Subban does. Jay Zawaski's talks about it all the time, ever since the season started, about Subban's rebound control. That's not a new thing. And yes, there were quite a few of those tonight, but that's how he plays. And, that it just is what it is. But going back to even Zadorov. So Jimmy Greenfield, who doesn't like me, and Ben Pope, who apparently doesn't like me anymore. None of them really like me because I think, unlike most of the fan base, I actually hold them accountable. And I'm going to critique them when they say dumb stuff. And I referenced it when we started the podcast tonight. Ben Pope put out an article about Zadorov, about the defense, but in it, he talked about Zadorov being inconsistent. And he's done it other times, and other beat writers have done it. And then he comments on Jimmy Greenfield, who said that, Greenfield goes, oh, uh, Zadorov is the new Alex Nylander, which is correct. I've been saying that I don't know how many times. Whenever we've talked about Zadorov, it seems like I'm always referencing Nylander because the Hawks fans can't get over the trade. And they're like, I don't know what it is, like some sort of blockage where they can't evaluate the player after the trade because the Hawks got, screwed in a trade. And by the way, I don't think they got screwed on the Nylander trade, but we'll get into that in a minute. But look, Ben Pope goes, "Oh, that's the truest statement I've seen tonight that Nikita Zadorov is the new Alex Nylander." Bro, you literally just perpetuated this in your article that you published today at the Sun Times. You want to talk about hypocrite? Holy shit. And nobody even mentions it. Like, I referenced it. I'm like, dude, this is what I'm talking about. And I guess it's just irritating to me because it is true. It's literally what I've said. You can't just sit and go, Zadorov is bad because Brandon Saad. No. Is he a top 4 defenseman? No. Are they playing him too much? Arguably, yes. But has he been horrible like everybody claims he is? No. Not even close. Like I said, DeHaan's been way worse than him in the last stretch of 10 games. And Pope did mention it. Maybe DeHaan sits, but he didn't label him as being inconsistent or any, those kind of adjectives that are thrown onto him. But it's just like, that's my problem. And that's why I'm hard on the beat writers because they're playing into this. And then, like a hypocrite, they go and go, oh, well, yeah, the fans are really hating on them, aren't they? Oh, yeah, because of you and the shit you're writing. Like, I don't care if you critique somebody, do it. Just make sure it's fair. And then, when someone is in your mentions and talks like this, call it out. That's like somebody was complaining about Zadorov tonight, and I said, he's been fine. And they said, oh, are we watching the same game? And I said, well, show me where he's been bad. Where's the evidence? If you want him benched, I'll bench him, but I need to see evidence as to why he needs to be benched. And I haven't seen it. And in his case, for 10 games at least. And even Eddie Olczyk. Like, if Eddie Olczyk, who's been an NHL head coach, and I think Joe would probably agree with this, is probably the best color commentator in hockey right now, and has been getting interviews to be a GM. If he goes, Zadorov's played really well the last 8 to 10 games. Do you think maybe you should start reevaluating your opinion? I mean, these narratives are just ridiculous. And back to like the goal scoring, right? I feel like we're making excuses and we're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. We've talked about all these players being out of the lineup. And well, if we just had these players, then things would be better. And I had someone throw out all these people to me. Alex Nylander, Dylan Strome, Doc, Taves. Well, Strome has been out of the lineup for 4 games, so that's not really a point. I don't know where you're going with that. Doc is a second-year pro, and I'm guilty of this, right? We all expect him to be an elite player when he came in this season. Would he have been? I don't know. I expect him to be. Most people do. But even as a second-year pro, this guy's not going to turn into Patrick Kane unless, he's just elite level. Not everybody is Patrick Kane. I think, we need to remember that. And yes, Taves is a huge part of this team. Obviously, he's the biggest piece that's missing. But then Alex Nylander, the guy that like literally 90% of the fan base hates And I'm like, when I say that, that's not an exaggeration. Like, literally 90% of the fan base, if not higher, does not like him, all because of who he was traded for. The kid put up 26 points, I believe it was last year, in his first NHL season. And most of that was played on the third and fourth line. He started in the top six, and that lasted, I think, 2 weeks, and they bumped him down. And then he would sporadically get back in the top six, but most of it was down in the bottom six. And I'm not saying that was wrong. Hell, Doc was in the bottom six for most of the year. It's because they're young players. Look at Khrushchev now. I'm bitching about it, yeah, but they're young players. The reason I'm bitching about it now is because you're not scoring and you have all these guys that are out of the lineup. But it's just like the only guy really out of that whole trio, or not even trio, quad, I guess quad, because we're talking about, for whatever reason, Strome's been thrown in there. But the only real guy in there that is a for sure bet to impact the team is Taves. Like, another thing with Doc, even in the playoffs, right? Like, he wasn't excellent at the dot. Everybody's shitting on Strome because Strome is struggling to win faceoffs. Well, Doc isn't guaranteed. I mean, Doc was doing about the same as Strome. And that was in the playoffs last year, even when he came back and we saw that progression. So, like, we need to just sit back and, like, breathe as a fan base and stop, like, don't do what Tab did and, like, try to, like, and the reason I went off is because he basically called me a moron because he took what I said out of context and was trying to go, oh, well, they're missing Taves and Doc. And I just went all the reasons as to why that's not an acceptable answer to the problem. And we've berated it at this point. But, like, as a fan base, and I don't know if it's because so many of the fans are newer fans, Joe, because, people like you and I who watched the team when they were awful, like, for people that think that they've been bad the last few years, you have no idea. This
Well,
team,
I think just chiming in when they were bad, from really what two, we go in. I'm just going back to, I mean, their last playoff appearance before 2009, I think, was 2002, and I mean, then after that, I mean, they were really bad. But that was also before social media, so I think it was things were a lot less glorified because it's like you couldn't really express. I mean, I think you had very minuscule social media platforms to express your you know frustrations to, but it was mostly just people that you knew. Like, I know if people had AOL Instant Messenger or MySpace or whatever it was,
game.
but I know back then social media wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So
Well, yeah, and obviously that's why, other than Twitter, I don't have social media. Like, I got rid of all of it because I just couldn't take it anymore. It is toxic. And that's like, it's so easy to go after people when you're not seeing them face to face. And, like, look, I don't have a problem with people wanting to argue stuff with me. Just don't, like, start insulting people. And, like, and not even just that. Just read what they're saying and don't twist it. Like, I never said Doc and Taves don't make this team better. And I've routinely said otherwise on this show. Anybody that's listened, or is our listeners, know that. You've said it. We've all said it. Everybody knows that. You would be an idiot if you would say otherwise. But there I am breaking my own rule, but that's the truth, right? Like, everyone agrees. We're all in agreement on that. But my problem is like, when we just, like, with Sidorov, right? Like, why are you hating on him? And he's like, people want to call him a vet too. He's barely a vet. He's 25 years old. Look, and you want to talk about double standards? Kubalik is the same age as Zadorov. And everyone wants to make the excuse for Kubalik that, oh, well, this is only his second season. He's young at 25. But then with Zadorov, who's the same age, has literally turned into a veteran. And I think we're just all, or the fan base at least, that's newer to being fans, are just so used to having a flawless team that they get caught up on this stuff. Like the Blackhawks had, I think I'm correct in this. I know Duncan Keith was included, but wasn't Brent Seabrook included in the top 100 players of the last century? Right?
I don't remember. Was it Keith? I think it was. Was it? I thought it was just Keith, Kane, and Taves. I
Or
don't
maybe it was. I don't know if Seabrook.
remember Seabrook.
I know those three were. I don't know
Yeah.
if Seabrook was in there or not. But even if he's not, he's definitely in the conversation, or arguably could be in there. And then you've got Nick Jarmelson, right? Shot blocking machine. Guy probably took years off his career. Johnny Oduya, Michael Roosevelt. That defense they had from like 2012 on was flawless. It's not going to be like that. Teams today do not have defenses like that. Even the teams that win. Like, Jesus Christ, Jan Ruda is playing for Tampa Bay. And Ruda is not that good of a defenseman.
And Michael Kepney too, right?
Right, for Washington.
Yeah.
I think Kepney's better than Ruda. I think actually Kepney's injured. But yes, they won at Stanley. He was playing top 4 minutes for Washington when they won the Cup. I mean, these are guys that aren't great defensemen. You don't need what the Blackhawks had in yesteryear to win. Like, arguably, the Hawks would like, I think, more offense. But again, I thought this was Boquist's best game of the season. Everybody else was terrible, but I thought Boquist played well tonight. He was aggressive. He was confident. He was calling for the puck. That's what you want to see from him. At least, even if he is, Eric Gustafson, just a younger iteration, you want to see him trying to create offense. And he was definitely trying to do that tonight. So, and I don't even like him. Look, dude, I said, I think the last show, I'd send him to Rockford. But like, you just have to be consistent, like, guys. That's like all I'm saying. And don't just hate on somebody because it's like the it thing to do, which is what it feels like happens with Zadorov and Nylander. And just, take everything the beat writers say with a grain of salt too, because most of them have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Mark Lazarus, for example, look, the dude got his job starting at covering the Valpo basketball team in Indiana. Okay. The guy is a big New York baseball fan. He never even heard of hockey until he got out here. And I think he covered the Penguins maybe for a year before he got his job here at the Sun Times, before I think Ben Pope took over for him and he went to the Athletic. But most of these guys, look, they're just, average guys that are doing it for a living. Most of them have no authority whatsoever to be talking about X player is this or X player is that. So, anyway, I guess my voice is getting raw, so I'm going to shut up. Joe, do you have anything to add to any of my just long rant that I went on?
No, well, no, and I get it. Again, I think we've talked about it. It's just fans are going to get frustrated, especially. I think it gets magnified more so, when with a bad loss like this. But again, I think we've got to try. Like I said, you play a team 8 times, you're not going to win all 8. There's just no way. I mean, regardless of how good or how bad one team is versus the other, they're going to make the adjustments. We had beaten Detroit 4 straight times. There's video nowadays. There's plenty of resources available that where a team is going to figure out your weaknesses and they're going to figure out how to expose you. Well, Detroit did that. They magnified our mistakes by putting the puck in the back of the net. Now, what the Blackhawks have to do tomorrow is go out there, forget this game, you throw it in the trash. You go out there tomorrow and you magnify Detroit's mistakes. You have to pressure them in the offense in their own zone. You have to draw penalties, which I don't know what's been going on with that lately. I know we didn't really talk about that. I think the Blackhawks have only had two power plays in their last however many minutes of in the last I think two games. Have they only had two power plays?
Yeah, they've had two the last two games. I think it was Dietz. It was like they've had what, two in their last 180 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So I mean that's well. I mean I don't know if that's just missed calls or regardless of whether it is or not. You got to go out there and you got to try to create plays and try to force yourself to get into a power play situation. So
Right. I mean, we talked about it. Well, yeah. I mean, we talked about it the last two games with Columbus about the officiating not being, I guess, tasteful. From one game, they were calling everything, then the whistle got put away. The last game, and then now tonight it was put away again. Um, but like you said, and I kind of referenced it earlier, that's going to happen too, and a lot more frequently during a full season. Um, and that comes back to you got to be able to score 5-on-5. You can't rely on your power play to win games for you. It's certainly a nice thing to have to win games for you, obviously. Um, and a lot of good teams have that for sure. But you still got to be able to score 5-on-5, which is, my whole point that led to this whole shitstorm that ended up into this review tonight. Like, they just don't have that. And to me, look, and me and Joe had talked about, if you flipped Panarin in here for Kubalik or whatever, would it change? How many goals does Panarin have? Because that's who I referenced earlier in my tweet, that ever since he was dealt, they've failed to score. And scoring's been a problem. And, I think Joe had a good point where Panarin has, I think, 5 goals in 14 games so far, which is, so Kubalik has two more, but then again, Kubalik's played about 8 games more. So, Panarin's probably still a little bit averaging more per game than he is. But either way, they're similar enough that you can make the argument that if you had put, Taves or Doc with them or Kane with them, that they'd score more. And I think that's to me another excuse that we've kind of made for why Kubalik's not scoring. And yes, that's true, but it's still not enough. That's my point. Even with Taves and Doc, it's not enough. You're going to get more chances, and yes, probably more of the pucks go in the net, but it's still not enough. Like, again, 50 chances tonight. That's the most chances in a game the Hawks have had since December of 2017, 4 years ago. That's insane. And I don't particularly, Joe talked about high danger chances. I don't. Everyone's talking about Bernier. I don't know what they watched, because I mean, I thought he was good. I don't think he was spectacular. Like those early games Lankinen was having where he was making highlight reel saves. I didn't see that out of Bernier tonight. Um, and Bernier and the Red Wings have been hot too. So you have to consider all of that. But
I think they've won 3 of 4 right now.
what was that?
I think Detroit's won 3 out of 4.
Yeah, yeah. Like, so they're hot, and we knew that coming in. I mean, Jamal talked about it on the pregame show about you can't take them lightly, and we've been talking about that. You can't take them lightly. Yes, they suck, but they're a hard, and God love them. They're a hard working team. That's where we thought we were going to be this year, and we're not. I think that's why when I'm looking at the team and I make a comment about they need top 6 scoring, I'm not thinking about this year. I'm thinking about next year and the years after that, you've got, like we said, all that dead money that can be used to add pieces to this team. And how much, like, honestly, if you, that's like Panarin, Taylor Hall, plus a top four defenseman, plus Doc, plus Taves.
Maybe even what's his name? I think he's only on a 1 year deal. Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another guy you could bring in, sure. And he's a goal scorer. Um, I don't, because he's, ideally you would like to add somebody like a Hossa. Like that's kind of what this reminds me of, right? Like this Hawks team is very reminiscent of that 2008 Hawks team that it was just kind of had their young stars, but also was kind of a core of misfits, and they needed that like elite level guy that had been there to come in, which was Hossa. So like I'm looking for something like that. And I guess I guess I'll throw it out to you. I was going to ask you about it before I went on the rant thing today, but I referenced it earlier. What do you think of Bobby Ryan? If he's available, which the reports are that he is, would you throw something to Detroit to try to bring him in for this season?
You know, I mean, as far as, but see, I don't like the whole, and not to say they're a rival because I know they're out of our conference, they're out of our division. I mean, it's only for this year, but I don't know, making a trade with your rival. I don't know if it's a good idea. I know, but I don't know if the
So if
price is
I
right.
said that you could get him for a third round pick, would you do it?
Oh yeah, I think absolutely. But I mean, if they're asking for like, yeah, either a first or a second rounder or somebody, up at the, like a Kurashev or another one of our young up and coming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Look, the only way I think you add him is if it's for a draft pick, and even then, I think it has to be a third rounder at the highest. Like,
Right.
I'm not giving. Obviously, he's not worth a first rounder, but I'm not even giving him a second. Um, but I was just, Bobby Ryan's a guy that used to. I mean, he's 33. That's a guy that has a history of goal scoring. So theoretically, if you bring him in to try to, score goals. He scored again tonight, obviously. Um, but I'm trying to think. The reason I thought about him was, and we were talking before, like if they do add at the deadline, what would they add, and then what could they add without trading? I think it was Elliot Friedman and his 31 thoughts or whatever. They were talking about the Hawks and the Kings that were not really looking to trade it, maybe would make a move, but wouldn't do anything short term. They're looking long term, which is the right path. I think we'd agree on that. So that's why I was thinking of like a Bobby Ryan who's 33, 1 year deal. You could get him for cheap, kind of a thing, who might have a chance to make a little bit of an impact. I don't know, but um, yeah, they've got to figure out their top six. They just do, even with Doc and Taves, if they both return. So, have speaking of, has there been anything out there about Doc yet? Because I would think his cast has to be off by now, right? We're almost.
I haven't heard anything, but I don't know.
He's. When did he have his surgery? That was the first week of January.
I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's 2 months. But anyway, um, is there anything about the game that we didn't cover? I know we didn't really talk about it all that much, but I mean Matthias Janmark got a goal. I was happy to see that.
Yeah. I think what else did we? I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, I think, I don't know what changes are going to be to the lineup will be made tomorrow.
Well, I think Lankinen obviously will
Well,
be.
right. I know Lankinen will get a start and goal, but I just didn't know if do you make any changes on the defensive side or the offensive side.
Well, I
Um,
guess since they're in Chicago, they could call somebody up, but like, who do they? Oh, I wanted to talk about that. So everybody was like up in arms about the players they sent to Rockford. Like, again, I don't want to come off like, are you stupid? But like, Delia needs to play, and it like, why are you mad that Delia is going down to play? I there's a ton of people that were angry that Colin Delia was sent down, and it's like, why? He hasn't played since, what was it, the second week of the season against Florida? I mean, my God. And it's a conditioning stint, obviously, so he didn't have to clear waivers. Why? Like, they're basically cheating the system. So I don't know why people are angry about that. And then people are angry about Bodan, I guess, which, you know, I hey, Bodan would, if I was coach, Bodan would be playing and Boquist wouldn't be. Boquist would be in Rockford. It'd be a reversal. But they're going to play Boquist. That's, we talked about it on this show. They're not taking in all those games at the beginning of the season where Boquist was awful and they wouldn't scratch him. How many times we talked about hopefully Kalanick or Bodan getting in there, uh, and he didn't. They kept Boquist in there. They're gonna run with him in that top four. So, you know, you want Bodan playing, you want Kalanick playing. So I don't know. Did you see the people that were kind of up in arms about these guys getting sent down? Like, am I missing something? I don't know where the outrage is coming from there.
what's getting what Delia or Kalanick?
Well, I don't think fans. Okay, Kalanick, I feel is like the best kept secret in the NHL, or at least the Blackhawks fandom. And I know Josh, I think, has really been liking what he's seen from him. He's follow Josh Barlog. I don't know. He's changed his Twitter handle. I'm not sure what it is anymore, but go follow him on Twitter. He's with On Tap and covers the Ice Hogs this year. Um, but Kalanick should have played by now. But I think what I was referencing, Joe, is I think a lot of the fans were pissed about both Delia being sent down and then Bodan. And I
Oh, okay.
just I don't understand why. Like, do you? Like, I mean, I think Bodan. I think, like I said,
Maybe
Bodan
because
would be.
he's made just such a good impression being up here, and he's. I mean, he's played well. Maybe that's just why they want him in the lineup, and I don't know. I'm
Well,
just
yeah, I mean, like I said, I agree, but I think that maybe that's kind of going back to what I was talking about just enjoying the season and like, look, would I prefer Bodan playing over Boquist? Like I just said, yes. I would much rather Bodan be playing over Boquist. That said, Boquist is still a young player. And I thought maybe we didn't talk about him enough tonight, but he had 2 assists tonight. I thought tonight was his best game of the season. He was aggressive. He was calling for the puck. He was noticeable. He was using his speed. He was jumping up into the play. So, like, they got a hard on for him. They're going to play him. If they were, every indication is that's what they've done. So, I don't, why you'd be mad that Bodan is playing top 4 minutes in Rockford versus sitting in the stands. Like, I don't know. Like, look, I think this goes back to my thing about like the favoritism with certain players and like all of that. Like, you guys just got to relax. Like, like I said, I'm not jumping up and down because Kalanick's not playing. I'm angry, yeah, but like I, you know, I'm not saying that Boquist doesn't deserve to play necessarily. My thing with Kalanick not playing was he wasn't playing anywhere. He was sitting in the stands. And this is supposed to be about development. So, to me, they're not taking Boquist out, and you're probably not taking Mitchell out. So rather than have either of these two guys sit in the stands, let them go play top 4 minutes in Rockford. Rockford's been terrible so far this season. So maybe they can, perk it up down there a little bit and, get their minutes and develop. But anyway, um, yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say about the game. It was a horrible game. Obviously, defense on the defensive side, at least, was terrible. Top six was non-existent. Uh, you can't rely on Patrick Kane to win every game. It's not a recipe for success. And it feels to me like the last little stretch here is that they've been kind of reliant on Kane to win the game for them. I mean, Kane had 7 points in 2 games over that little stretch on the road trip. I mean, good grief. So,
Right. Well, and like I said, let's just overall throw this game away. Just forget it. Let's see what happens tomorrow. We get them on the strength of a back to back. So let's just hopefully we'll come back with a lot better effort. I think I can almost assuredly know that we will. And I think tomorrow will be a different result. I think we'll be talking a lot better game from the Blackhawks tomorrow.
yeah, hopefully. But with that, everybody, I think that'll wrap this up. Again, I want to thank everybody that stuck around to listen and humored me, including Joe himself, who stuck around and listened to me kind of rant about this stuff because I don't know. I'm a passionate guy. And when I see, like players that I feel like in Zadorov's case, I think get bullied for no reason. And then guys that try to like start attacking me and then like not even just at the attacking. It's like then you start throwing passive aggressive attacks on your own feed as if, like where I'm not going to see it, right? Like you idiot, I follow you. I don't know if he follows us or not, but just don't do that kind of crap. It's not worth it. And I'll try again to not engage with that. It's probably actually a miracle. For those of you that follow my personal account, it's kind of a miracle probably that it's lasted this long before we've had any kind of like dust up like that. But anyways, again, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to Joe for humoring me. And then again, stay safe, everybody. We're getting close to spring here. I know we've had a couple 50-degree days out here in the Quad Cities. The snow is finally starting to melt. So that's nice. Sun's been out the last couple days. And if you can, and if you're in line, get your vaccines, wear your masks, do everything that we need to get back to normal. I think everybody wants to be back to normal right now. So until next time, tomorrow, we will talk to you all soon, and let's go Hawks.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. Go Hawks.